Welcome to the show, Mark Organ.
Delighted to be here once again.
We're delighted to feature you. What's new?
What's new? It's incredible the speed at which things are moving in agentic AI, which is what we're going to talk about today. I've been seeing now a number of companies who are, replacing, entire functions with agents with various levels of success. Um, But yeah, it really feels like marketing, especially sort of prospecting, is ground zero for how AI is being used in the in technology companies. So it's an exciting time.
Definitely so excited for this. Let's do a quick round of introductions. We have leading CXOs, technologists, CMOs. Amanda, welcome to the show again.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Happy to feature you. Kingston, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Kingston Duffy. I'm the founder of Navu. This is my fourth startup in Silicon Valley, so I've been around the block a few times. AI really looks like a big one. My career in Silicon Valley started with the internet back in the 90s, and this one feels just as big.
Amazing. Mark, it's your show.
It's awesome. That's great. Well, that one of the things that's really cool about this panel is that we do have people who have been through at least a couple of different revolutions, um, in terms of marketing tech in Silicon Valley. Me personally, I founded Eloqua back in late 1999, one of the first, um, I guess, hosted multi-tenant SaaS companies out there. Founded just a few months after Salesforce.com. And I've seen lots of interesting things in my time. And it is interesting to see, how the AI revolution in marketing, how it's how things that are similar to what's come before, but also some things that are really, really radically different. And I definitely want to explore that today. Um, I guess we'll have people introduce themselves when they answer their question. Maybe let's just start by saying, what is agentic marketing? And how is it different from what has come before? Love to hear from maybe Chris. Maybe why don't you jump in on this one?
Yeah, maybe we'll start with agentic AI. I guess for people who are joining for the first session, we maybe define what we mean by agentic AI, which is it's kind of the precursor to AGI. So we started with AI, now we have agentic AI, and we're on the path to AGI, and we can fake some AGI stuff with AI agents. And so whereas now we might say something like write me a subject line, you might say that to the AI. With agentic AI, you might say something like run a reactivation campaign for users who ghosted us in the last 90 days. And when your AI is set up correctly, it will pull the right audience, it will draft the email flow, it'll test subject lines, it'll send messages, it'll monitor performance, and then it'll report back to you how it's done. So that's the transition we're making from what we had before, which is like Chat GPT into agents.
Right. Someone else gave a counterpoint on that.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So yeah, quick intro for myself. Amanda Kalo, CEO and founder of OneMind. I was the former CEO and founder of Sixth Sense. I like to say I started Sixth Sense to find buyers and OneMind now to close them. So I have unfinished business for the B2B go-to-market space. When I think about where we are today with going agentic, everybody's talking about agentic, kind of a little bit of a spicy take, but I feel like agentic is yesterday's news in a lot of worlds. It's the simple task-based workflows. And Chris, as you mentioned, really the where we're going is to the place of AGI. And what is the definition of AGI? If you talk to Sam Altman, it can replace workers and do as well across a specific job as a human. I think we all think of AGI as having the EQ plus the IQ as well, and the emotional intelligence and the relationship building. And there's other pieces that we're not 100% there yet, but in the context of sales and marketing, can it carry on a conversation, engage buyers, meet them when they're active and ready, and give them what they're looking for to drive the end goal, which is pipeline and close one business, and doing it in a delightful way. And I think that's like, ultimately, we are at AGI and GTM if we can do it in a way that really serves buyers. And if we serve buyers, we're going to serve our own needs of growth and efficiency.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. That's been a touchstone for me in my career in terms of, great marketing actually delivers a great buyer experience. And I don't know, is AI really doing that yet? Are AI agents actually delivering a superior buyer experience yet? I feel the answer is no, but I would love to hear maybe someone who believes that yes and a no on, are we actually delivering great experience yet with AI agents?
So I'm a fuck yes. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
And it's, through our superhumans, but I'll leave it at that. And it's far better than what a human can do.
Well, Amanda and I agreed ahead of time that we would intentionally disagree with each other on things to make it interesting. So out of the box, AI is terrible at having conversations with people the way that a human would. It actually is truly terrible. In our platform, we've had to do an incredible amount of put in place an incredible number of controls to force the AI to act in a specific way that feels more natural, the way that we would interact with each other as humans. And so you can definitely get it better. I still wouldn't say that it's an excellent replacement for a human when you're doing kind of AI conversations. You could say that it's very good. I think you can get it to very good at this stage. But also with very good, you've made the AI, in some ways, you've taken away some of the creativity and flexibility of the AI, and you've had to put in place a lot of constraints that tell the AI exactly how it can behave in certain situations. And so to me, it feels more like traditional programming than it is letting the AI do its own thing creatively. So that's my take, at least my experience in building my AI startup.
Yeah, I'd come at it a different way, which is in the either or. If you think my job is to replace a human, I agree entirely. But if you think about marketing's job is to talk to the masses. And if you have tens or hundreds of thousands of visitors coming to your website, and what you're giving them today is a 1,000-page user's manual for your company, that's a bad experience. And the question is, can AI do a better job than that for the buyer? And I think the answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I couldn't agree with that more. It's bringing content to life. This is why the conversational side works so well, is that, especially if you have deep, complex products, and you have to navigate the whole site and try to find your way. That is atrocious for a buyer, right? So just meet me where I am and have a conversation. And Chris, you're right. I agree with you that you do have to put it on strong guardrails, and out of the box, trying to do it yourself. Good luck. Like, really hard to do and do well and not hallucinate. Yeah. But I totally agree with that, Kingston.
I guess, Kingston, I come from, so I built a company called User Testing, which is all about really deeply understanding the user's experience. And so I guess I'm probably a little bit more sensitive to the experience that we deliver. And so you probably could say, like, yes, AI does a better job than just dumping someone onto a website and letting them figure it out on their own. It helps them find information, but I guess I'm sensitive to the quality of the experience. Like, if you deliver an experience that's just okay, or a user has to ask AI several times to do something, they're just going to give up. And so, at least from my perspective, the quality of the experience still has to be very, very high.
Yeah. So don't want to dominate here, but I do want to say there's a lot of hype in the AI space right now. And yet, what is the danger is that we are going to we're going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. The AI is solving a lot of really big problems right now. And if we set the bar too high, if we set the expectations so that we're at an AGI level way before we're ready, we're just going to be leaving value on the table. So my feeling is, let's keep moving that bar up and move it up aggressively. But where we are right now, I think we're at a place where we're, in our own product, what we're seeing is people are coming in and using an AI on a website and just having, like, I'm getting the answers I actually had to the questions I actually had. That can make a huge positive difference. It doesn't need to be uh, a full replacement for the entire sales and marketing team that's behind that. I still think AI is very early in the creativity side of the marketing business, but it's very much there in terms of the content delivery side of the business.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would just to pop in, I'd completely agree. My name's Zach Holland. I'm the founder of a company called Avery AI, where we have what we call the AI marketing manager. So an agent to take care of a lot of the things you use agents for. So on the strategy and content creation side, but then a marketplace of human experts to fill the gaps where the AI can actually match to the right person. So obviously my standpoint is that there's still hundreds of use cases where you still need human expertise, and we will for a lot longer than a lot of companies advertise the idea of like AGI replacing marketing. But I also think marketing is a really big, broad term. When we talk about marketing, yes, AI is better at analyzing a massive amount of information and spitting the right things back already than a human. But under the marketing umbrella, you have creative brand direction, you have media buying, you have all these places where agents are still kind of dropping the ball, and it's definitely rapidly improving. But I think if we're talking about first AI was to replace a task, and then agentic AI is to replace more of a workflow, and then AGI is to replace a role, I think we have a significant amount of time until you can really pull people out of roles that weren't super basic to begin with. Amanda.
Yeah. That's a good. Yeah. Yeah. It does feel like we're still where we're narrowly defining tasks. In order for the technology to really work, at least so far. But things are changing quickly.
Megan, you're surprisingly silent on this topic. I think you have a strong opinion here.
I mean, I certainly do. I've always been an advocate for sophisticated tech stacks for marketing. I think it's when you understand what's out there and you use it, you have a first mover advantage on it. You will definitely build more pipeline. You'll attract the buyers you need to go after. You scale your team, certainly in startups and late stage startups, and now in public companies. We have deployed 16 technologies that are AI specific technologies across our marketing functions, and we're continuing to do proof of concepts. And so I would say there's not a function in marketing that can't be using it. And I certainly am hiring people who are comfortable with it. And if you don't embrace it, you really can't stay on the team, I would say. So, and I have a 200-person team, and I don't necessarily want to make that bigger. I want to make it more efficient. I want to compete. So I actually think these tools are amazing in what they're doing already. And I'm fortunate I'm at Samsara, and we're embracing these tools across the company, across engineering and go to market. And we're seeing some great early results. So I think it works. I think it does personalization where we want it. I think it scales. I think that, yes, you have to understand it, and some of it you have to train and you have to learn, but also just create an environment for your team to play with it, because also it's just fun.
Right. That's a good segue. But what's one task that you wish that AI could solve tomorrow that today it just doesn't cut it?
I can chime in there. Hi, guys. I'm Jen Rapp. I am CMO at a creative company, so I can really go into like creative side of AI here. I'm CMO at Superside, and we are an AI-powered creative service. I also come from Klaviyo and ran marketing at DoorDash, so very varied background. I think the area that I want to employ AI, and maybe some of you on this call are, I would love to hear if you are, I cannot for the life of me figure out how to bring AI in to enhance marketing attribution. Can any of you? Are you able to say, like, look, AI is telling me that this lead came from this, had these 6 touch points, and this is why they resonated, and do more of that? I think to me, that would be a huge AI win I haven't figured out.
I think that's what Chris Golek's new company is doing, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, and then like on the consumer side, you have like companies like Northbeam that have been pushing the boundaries there for a while. Prescient AI just rolled out their own AI model all around like AI-enabled mixed media modeling. So there's some interesting things in the space. I mean, I think the most interesting thing is kind of like Megan was saying, right now everybody's deploying 16 different AI tools. what I find really interesting is like, when will we get an agent system that actually does start to approach AGI that can use these 16 tools for me to accomplish the larger goal, which is more sales, spending less money, or whatever that is, and where it's more of like the orchestration between agentic tools that you can get pulled out of. Otherwise, it just feels like oftentimes there were a lot of MarTech tools before. Now there's a lot of MarTech tools that have AI in them and they're better, but it still feels like you spend all day jumping around between 16 tools, and then you got to go demo 3 more. And oftentimes you wish there was that AI could start to actually pull me out of the need to be in all of these siloed tools and actually bring things together.
My background is really the engineering side of things. And whenever I hear orchestration, I have nightmares over big orchestration systems that are just in a constant state of chaos. What seems like a lot better approach as we sort of re-engineer for the marketing organization and the whole go-to-market organization is that we should be thinking about data rather than tools. We should be thinking about which of these tools is throwing off useful data and how do these tools consume that data. And there's lots of good technologies for data islands to do this stuff. Our tool, for example, is sitting out on the website, having conversations with people coming to the website who are high in the funnel. And we throw off really, really interesting data, which is basically what we're looking inside. We're like an X-ray machine looking inside the mind of the top of the funnel. And that data is super valuable, but a lot of our customers don't know how to use it. At most, they're going to sit and look at a feed of it like it's an Instagram feed. And we would love to see other innovators saying, oh, if you can give me access to that data, look what we could do for you. So I'm hoping to see a lot of innovation of where independent companies are starting to find ways in which to share AI produced and AI consumed data.
I love that, Kingston. And I would like double click there to say the other place that I think people are getting this wrong, like across using these AI tools and what they're thinking about is they're thinking about replacing their existing systems and how we do things today. And I think we have to really realize that this is a revolution. This is something net new. And so a lot of the tools that are spinning up are making what we do today is a point solution better versus if I have like starting from first principles, like if I'm starting from the beginning and I have this tool at my disposal, what would I do with it? And so like, in our specific case, like and to no fault of our amazing customers, but they're thinking about, let's put a superhuman to replace your inbound. Let's put a superhuman to replace a sales engineer. Well, and let's put a superhuman to replace a CSM. We'd like to think about it as, why not just have a superhuman to do go-to-market from the beginning of the funnel to the end of the funnel, have memory through all the conversation, look up all what's happening in CRM. And it's that one role versus, because humans have limitations. So like, as we were saying earlier, where's the bar in AI versus a human? For better or worse, we actually have a much higher bar for AI than we do for humans. Like you think about a salesperson and you ask me if my superhuman hallucinates, I'm like, have you listened to your salespeople? Right? On calls, like they hallucinate and they hallucinate nefariously. Like they know they're doing it to get the deal. As soon as the superhuman does it once, they never do it again. So I challenge people to look outside of the box of the way things are working today. And if we had a clean slate, what would we do?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting decision for the future is like, do we build humans have limitations. It's like, do we build to unlock their limitations and make them give them superpowers, or do we build to replace them with superhumans? Which I think is just kind of like a core difference. And I think on the marketing side, we've underserved users where in engineering, they've gotten these products quickly that do make an engineer a superhero. They really do 10x what they can do. And all we've really been doing on the marketing side is rolling out a lot of tech that like bogs users down with more things to do and more of these like really point solutions. So it's like, I'm obviously super interested in like how you can take a marketer and make them a 10x marketer by taking those limitations away.
Well, Sam Altman recently said that he thinks AGI will be available in a few thousand days.
I mean,
so
it's already available.
No.
For
AGI is
his
not
definition.
no.
His definition of replacing work. So like he wanted that to get out of his Microsoft contract. Anyway,
okay.
But yes.
Okay, but if you go by the kind of the standard definition of AGI, right, we're probably, in his mind, we're like 10 years out, really, from that being available. So what we're talking about is how do we make AI agents more and more capable to replace more and more tasks and feel more like AGI while we're waiting for AGI to become available. And so when you say like, what do you wish AI can do better? I mean, it's if I think about like, what's the definition of AGI? I mean, I want it to have better memory. I want agents to be able to collaborate better together. I want AI to be able to pursue a goal across multiple tasks. I want the AI to be able to learn from outcomes. Today, those are very unsophisticated, even in agentic AI workflows. And so I'm hoping that those things improve in the next year or two so that we can really take advantage of them for their workflows. And maybe, Amanda, really replace, like an entire role or an entire function.
Yeah, I got you on the
Yeah.
memory and the workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is
Yeah.
here now for sure.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me, what's missing are agents that think like scientists, that create hypotheses and go out and test it and learn. And I think that's one of the things that's sort of most special about humans. And I look forward to see more hypothesis creation and testing, experimentation, and insight development would be pretty amazing. I don't know if you've seen anything do that yet. I've not seen anything do that well. And apparently there's some limitations even on the math in terms of getting that done well.
The guardrails takes on a whole new meaning when you get into the world of marketing and sales, because of course there's guardrails, which is, don't talk about stuff that's not suitable for the workplace, but there's guardrails, which is just don't destroy my brand.
Right.
That telling a story in a way that just isn't the way you want it's told can be super destructive. So, I think we spend a lot of time really thinking about how to do guardrails. And what we've learned so far is, boy, the real simple basics make a big difference, such as here's a whole set of questions not to answer. Boy, without that kind of stuff,
In
this
caps.
could really, really go the wrong direction.
Yeah, and why for this phase right now of where we are, tastemakers who can guide AI products in the right way are becoming so valuable, right? Where it's like there's so much of that minutia where you might not trust just an agent system to go off and start testing things with your brand in public, but somebody really experienced with a lot of AI powers underneath them, you would trust that person to go off and test more things, and without you there managing those guardrails day to day as a busy business owner, right? So it's like there's that interesting role that's emerging of like what senior engineers are doing with Cursor and things like that, but on the marketing and sales side of that kind of like tastemaker guide, whether that's in brand or on ads or whatever that thing is.
I want to make sure I want to, oh, sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say when you're talking about really how you prompt and the guide rails that you're giving it, it reminds me in school when you had the assignment where you had to tell your teacher how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I don't know if any of you had to do that, where it was a very step-by-step instruction. And so you would say, get some peanut butter instead of getting peanut butter with a knife, which was there. They would just stick their hand in the peanut butter. And then it was like, get a piece of bread instead of a slice of bread. You got a little ripped up piece. And so you kind of went through this funny exercise of being very literal and specific, exactly what you wanted to do. And certainly I've experienced that in playing with ChatGPT and others where I tried to build the doll and the doll thing meme that went around, and I was like, grab my laptop and then walk forward, but I didn't say exactly what shelf it was on, what it looked like, and it grabbed my sunglasses, and then it morphed into this really weird laptop and moved forward. But I just think there's a lot around not only the guardrails, but also just prompt engineering and how we're training ourselves to be more literal. It also reminds me of computer science classes when you're writing code. You have to be so specific in it. So I don't know. I find it a lot of fun.
And I want to make sure people didn't miss the nugget that Amanda just dropped for the audience. When you're trying to control OpenAI and it's not listening to what you want it to do, if you put it in caps, it actually does start to listen to you. So that's a little nugget there for prompt engineering. Put things in caps that you really, really, really need the AI to follow.
Thanks. That's a big insight. I didn't know that.
Yep.
I thought that was, yeah, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no, seriously, I've used that trick on several of our prompts, and it's the only way I can get OpenAI to actually listen.
And put it up front.
You yell at it.
Earlier is better. Yeah, earlier is better, and bold is better. Or sorry,
Way,
caps
it's
is
exactly
better.
like some employees,
Yeah, and do it often. Repeat it often. So early and often in all caps. So when I mean, it sounds so basic, but yeah, some of these things are important. And that's what, Kingston, as you were saying, when you're trying to people, or maybe it was you, Chris, earlier, that if you try to build it yourself, it's just not going to work if you don't know all these little nuanced tricks, right, to make it happen. And, the balance between fine tuning and large prompts and context windows and doing RAG and like when to use which and what works and what actually will deliver the ultimate experience is, it's an art right now. Like, and it's a beautiful art, if you ask me.
Yeah, our system, it took us a long time to realize we were just giving it too many instructions. We cut our instructions by about 70% and it got a lot better. It just had to be the right 30%.
Exactly. That's right.
Well, let's talk a little bit. I mean, there is a lot of hype around AI. I don't know where you guys think we are on the hype curve. It really feels like we're kind of close to the top. But love to hear from you. Like, what is the most overhyped aspect of agentic marketing, but where's the real lasting value that people are missing? That when we get to the bottom of the hype curve, things start to level out again, kind of like the Segway, which is now a standard for tours and warehouses. Where's the real lasting value with respect to agentic marketing?
Did you just compare agentic marketing's hype to the Segway?
It's my favorite example of that hype curve. But you know what though? Chances are this technology is going to follow something like that. Maybe be a little more impactful than the Segway.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, there are probably some aspects today where it is overhyped and not going to deliver everything that people think. And then there's going to be something that's going to be utterly transformational forever. Our marketing departments will never be the same again.
I guess I don't really care where we are on the hype curve. I mean, in terms of adoption, we're really early on the adoption of agents for workflows. I mean, almost nobody that I know uses them in their personal life. I mean, the people that I know that are using them they're building it into products. So these are engineers or product managers with deep, coding expertise. And so I actually think that, and I've told this to everybody at my company, that agentic AI is not a nice to have skill. It's a must have skill that dramatically improves the quality and throughput of your work if you use it well and incorporate it into your daily workflows the way that you might open up ChatGPT to ask a question today. And so yeah, so I think hype. Sure, I'm okay with the hype, but I think we need to get people to start using it. And right now it feels daunting. Like, where do I even get started? I hope, Mark, we get to that question of how do we actually get started with agentic AI? Because I think a lot of people want to use it, they just don't know what to do next. Like I have my ChatGPT open. Now what do I do from here?
I can
Yeah,
chime
my
in.
impression is that we got the cart out in front of the horse a little bit, in the sense that in order to have an orchestration of things, you've got to have things. And I think we're still early on the things. Like our thing, I would think is one of the things. I don't think we're in the agentic market at all yet. What we are is a point level solution that we would love to be part of an agentic orchestration. But until people start to figure out where you can bolt things together, there isn't enough value yet.
What do you mean by things, Kingston? What do you mean by things? I don't understand that.
Well, call them tools if you want. I
Okay.
think of them as things that have data in and data out, because I'm an engineer. But think of them as, if I'm going to orchestrate something, I've got to orchestrate tools. So some of those may be existing tools. I want to go drive a Google ad campaign, or I want to go, change my CMS, or whatever it happens to be. Those may be conventional tools, or those may be AI agents themselves. I don't think that matters, in the sense that what you're doing is orchestrating. And as an agentic AI, what you're saying is the orchestration itself is going to be driven by an AI. What I'm trying to say is, aside from the conventional tools, we don't have a lot of tools here that are really amenable to an AI driving them, I think. That's my perception right now. If you ask an AI to drive a Google ad campaign, good luck with that. I think that's a very, very complex thing that requires some combination of creativity and expertise and knowledge. And I don't think we're quite ready for that yet. But our tool, for example, is dealing directly with an audience on the website, and is throwing off all this data about how people are using the website. And I can imagine some very, very simple flows that come from that where we say, oh, if we're seeing this set of questions getting asked, that should drive this content generation, that should drive this ad campaign. Some baby steps in that direction are going to be very, very valuable to marketing teams.
Amanda, you
Anybody
must
else?
have
Yeah.
added that.
Well, I have a thesis, and it has nothing to do with what I'm working on. That I was at an event last week, and I heard somebody talking about ICP. Like, we still need to really define our ICP, right? And I kind of sat there and I was scratching my head because I was like, wait, do we? Like, we're not the one to solve this, by the way. So I think there are other like creative tools and things that can do this. But if you can actually target everyone and you can have hyper personalization one-to-one based on their needs. Now, I think there is some definitely good uses of ICP on the product side. Like, okay, I can still only, well, maybe like products can build themselves right over time. But this is where the hype, Mark, to your earlier question about hype, I think we're not there yet from a product perspective, and we're probably not there yet from a marketing perspective, but imagine to have that dynamic content based on what I learn. Like, okay, I'm having a conversation with you and I learn you have this particular pain point and you're in this industry and this vertical and you're using this product, like, boom, I should hit you with the exact message, in whether it be in the form of like a video that came from one of our customers, or whether it be in the form of a conversation or a white paper or whatever it is, to have dynamic, personalized, real-time content. I think that's like the ultimate goal. And then it throws away all these old principles of like, we only can do so much. So let's get focused on what our core ICP is.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I think when most people talk about ICP, though, they're talking about for their actual product. So if you sell an IT solution for manufacturers, you have an ICP naturally that you can't just run dynamic personalization for everybody in the world and get the right messaging out in front of the right people, right? I mean, you're right that it'd be awesome to have like, and that's what we're already getting to, is like hyper personalization where we can get our message in front of the right people. But who those right people are for certain products isn't just everybody, right?
Fair when you have limitations of what your product can do, but like, I mean,
which most products do, right?
I mean, take for example, look at like like HubSpot, like they've like in Salesforce, they both kind of like Salesforce did the enterprise, HubSpot did the SMB. They focused on their lane. They were going after small businesses so they could get hyper focused, and then the marketing followed along. Like, they could serve anyone in what they're doing.
Those are two super
product.
horizontal products, but like a lot of products are mostly vertical, right? And so you have to have ICPs, right? Those aren't going to go anytime soon.
Well, but I mean, like, I look at like even ourselves. I'll take myself for an example. Like, we can sell, like, I had a roofing company come in today and they wanted to use our superhumans. That is not my ICP, but shit, they were about to spend 6 figures with us after a 30-minute meeting. And I'm like, we might need to look at like, we can service anyone. So
Yeah, sure.
I think as these projects, it depends, like that's what I started with the earlier comment about the product can't scale to like, but marketing has been defined with defining the market, this chief market officer versus the chief marketing officer. And if it is defining the market and the product can meet serve multiple masters, do we really need to do this anymore? And does it like turn that whole concept on its head? I think that we're about to go into a new world.
So
yeah,
Kingston, just to I guess Kingston, I think you're right that you need the things to be ready for orchestration. But in some senses, you can cheat a bit in the interim. And what I mean by that is there are tools like, for example, Zapier, that can move data from one system to another system or from one database to another database. So you can start to consolidate data that you need for accomplishing a task already today and start running and use that as your tool. Basically, the database is your tool. Like, for example, let's say a product marketer wants to do automated competitive intelligence, right? You in Gmail, you subscribe to emails about your competitors. You have Zaps that will send that data into a spreadsheet, and then you can have another agent that looks at that spreadsheet once a week and summarizes what it's discovered. And you have a third agent that looks out over the last 6 months and tries to compile the trends. And then you have a fourth agent that will post those updates into a shared Slack channel, for example. So I do think there's, it's not perfect, but I think there are like small things that you can do today using tools like Zapier is one of my favorites, but you can use tools like Zapier to accomplish a lot of marketing activities without the tools being ready.
And we have MCPs rolling
And you have
out
MCP,
faster
right?
and
You have
faster.
MCP too, right?
And so
Exactly.
like,
Yep.
I mean, we're getting closer to a world where, agents can connect to anything, whether it's an AI
Right.
native app or more of a legacy one, quickly and easily. I mean, HubSpot rolled out their MCP today. That's a pretty big change for agents right there, right?
Yeah,
So we're
huge.
definitely not super far away from a world where an agent can browse the right things, get the right data, and then start to orchestrate you in the right
Yeah,
direction.
actually, Zach, for people who don't know, since MCP is still relatively new, do you want to just explain it?
Yeah, definitely. So MCP just stands for Model Context Protocols, and it's pretty much just a language now that makes sure that an application can be easily navigated and understood by AI agents, right? And so when a tool like HubSpot rolls out their MCP, it means that now through that MCP, like what we used to have to build an in-house API for, an agent can, without having to build this really long, expensive integration, can now speak to HubSpot, right? And more and more tools are rolling out MCPs quicker and quicker. Google rolled out an entire language for how MCP should be written. And so you have to think that things like Google Ads and things like that are very close to agents being able to browse and to be able to navigate in the right ways like a human would. And so go ahead.
I just wanted to say that in our experience, if you talk about enterprise scale, let's talk about marketing teams with hundreds of people in them as opposed to ones. At enterprise scale, you're going to want complex orchestration. You're dealing with lots of moving parts in a full organization, and you're trying to, make big decisions that have to happen fast. As you move down to, SME, where you're dealing with a marketing team that's often 2 or 3 people at most, there's no way they're going to deal with the complexity that you're talking about, right? That the idea of building a functioning workflow of any degree of complexity is way beyond that. But on the other hand, innovation comes in through the SME much faster than it does at the enterprise level. So I think for agentic marketing, agentic AI marketing to really take off, someone's going to have to go figure out how do we make that so simple that the smaller companies can actually start to use it? Because they're going to be the ones that really innovate. And yes, a few enterprises will invest heavily and they're going to take 5 years to do it and eventually have a really big, complicated, orchestrated system. But I think the sweet spot there is still coming in through SME and figuring out how do we make small, nimble companies able to use the tooling that's really going to make some exciting things happen.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Or
couldn't agree with you more there.
nail the change management. I mean, from what I'm seeing, it's user experience and change management and getting the humans so that they can adapt seems like the biggest challenge that I've seen in companies. But what do you
Yeah.
guys think of that?
I think people are getting pushed to adapt now. It's nice to sell an AI product because you get people who are like, my boss told me I have to start using AI products, and so I'm here to use this. And so it's nice to be on the other side of that. But just to really quick on what Kingston said, I think it's totally true. I do think that even at the enterprise side, marketing teams are getting smaller and smaller, right? Like marketing teams are a fifth of the size that they used to be. So they are more nimble than they used to be. And it's also that you can get in and work with individual teams within a large enterprise organization. So the marketing initiatives of an enterprise team or an events team within a large enterprise system, prove it out on a team function before you start to scale out into enterprises. But I completely agree that if you can make things simple for the SME and for the 4 or 5 person marketing team, it's a good way to prove things out before scaled up.
Yeah, I think the last, before we move on from MCP, and I didn't read HubSpot's press release, but I'm not sure about this. But one of the promises of MCP is, for example, anyone at the organization could go into the HubSpot Slack channel and ask questions of their own HubSpot database, like which customers did we acquire last week, or what's the size of my biggest account, or for the IBM account, what have they, how many times have they renewed, and what's their current licensing amount. So in theory, I don't know if HubSpot deployed it this way, but in theory, you would be able to ask your own database questions like this and democratize it for the SME in a Slack channel, for example.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Or you could use a platform like Avery where you could talk to your AI marketing manager and you could talk to through the MCPs, HubSpot, Google, Meta, and all of it within the context of what you're actually doing in your program.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting future where there's been a lot of presumption, whether you're in the sales organization or the marketing organization, that the center of your organization is the CRM. And I think that the CRM may get moved to the side, we may see something else trumpet in the middle. HubSpot and Salesforce, of course, would love to keep that center spot, but AI is such a disruption. I think there's room for somebody to come in and potentially really change, what's at the center of that hub and spokes.
Amanda,
Oh,
with
absolutely.
y'all's sales superhumans, how much is the CRM that like core piece of the infrastructure?
Bringing the CRM data into the
Well,
superhuman.
just like how important is the CRM in the future, pretty much, does it remain this like vital piece, or does it start to become less important?
I think the data is vital, but does it need to sit in a structured, system of record?
Yeah, does it sit in HubSpot? Does it sit in Salesforce, or does that entity start to change?
One of those is one of our largest customers, so I have to say yes.
Okay, all right.
So I am a big fan. Yeah, so yes, it still sits there. But at the end of the day, it's like we need the data, and we need to have, like somebody said earlier, I don't remember who was saying this, I think it was Kingston, but about memory, right? So remembering pulling out every piece of information about the opportunity, about the account, about where they are in their sales cycle or what products they have, what we want to upsell, but also like, hey, the superhuman talked to somebody yesterday. I talked to CMO and now I'm talking to the CRO. Can I bring those conversations together? Like we literally, one of the most impressive things that we've done as a company that I just am so excited about is 3 weeks ago, a CRO talked to our superhuman for 90 minutes over the weekend when no salesperson was going to get on the phone. And then he passed it to the CMO. This is of a publicly traded company. We had a 30-minute call and closed a 100K deal in a matter of weeks. So she did all the selling, she scoped, she did the use case when the salesperson wasn't available, but it was being written back to your question. It went, the information was written back to our CRM so that she could pull that information in, and she had memory of her past conversation so she could have the context and pick up from where she left off with the CRO when she talked to the CMO to say, hey, I actually know you have these pain points and you're trying to go into these markets and this is what you're doing today, and could just go versus starting all over fresh again. So I think that's what's really critical in these, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to build, but we're excited about it. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that a pitch.
Yeah, no, it's awesome though.
I can't help myself.
It wouldn't be you on a panel if you didn't do a pitch. So you didn't
Oh,
disappoint.
Mark, I can't help myself. I just get so
I know.
passionate. I said I
You're
was
so
on the
excited about what you do. Yeah. But actually, it's a good segue though, in terms of what the marketing department of the future looks like. Like, what do the humans actually do? I mean, do we even have a CMO in the future?
Yes, Megan.
What do the people what do the people do? How does the staffing look like 10 years from now, for example, or 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What does the marketing organization of the future look like? Actually, Megan would be a good person to talk to about this. You still have a job, Megan, 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're a leader of agents, right? Whether you're, maybe it's the CAO, Chief Agent Officer or something, but I think you are, you're not going to go up in marketing unless you can manage agents. I do think there's some element of understanding. Recently they were talking about VCs will never go away because there's some sort of like intuition and sense of the markets and themes and different things. I think there'll still be an element of creativity and leadership, but to your point of needing large teams, no. And I think AI native companies don't have marketing at all, right? A lot of these startups, they come to me for advisory and none of them, they don't have anyone in marketing yet. And they're getting 100 million, 200 million. We have one that just 300 million, right? So it's definitely changing. I think we won't be logging into software. I think we'll have just a console, right? We'll have Gemini or we'll have Perplexity, or, there'll be tools that I just go to that and I start asking questions or start prompting it to go do something. And maybe at some point I'm not even typing, I'm just talking back and forth with my computer, asking the questions and then making decisions or assessing the decision. Do you want to do this? Yes, go do that. No, don't do that. And so I certainly think we're changing and evolving for sure.
The CMO it's a really weird job. It's probably on the executive team, it's probably the hardest job to fill. And what I mean by that is the CMO is responsible for a crazy number of different things. The CMO is responsible for brand and creativity and creative, product marketing, performance marketing, customer marketing, comms and PR, content, social media, events, and each of those functions has a specialized person who you can't just move your product marketer into performance marketing and they're going to perform. So it's almost like each team within marketing is its own specialized unit with non-transferable skills between each other. So I agree with Megan that the CMO is really ultimately is the orchestrator of a team of AIs. But Megan, I'm curious what you think about this. In general, when I've hired CMOs, they tend to have, of those things that I listed, they tend to have one area that they grew up in. So they tend to be very good in brand or very good in performance marketing. But in the other areas, naturally, they're less strong. So they don't actually have strong expertise. Not always, but generally, they don't have strong personal experience and expertise across all the different functions. And so I guess the question is, is the CMO, how much value can the CMO add as the orchestrator of these different agents when even they themselves don't have deep experience in all the areas that they manage? What do you think about that?
I mean, I guess I could just ask, right? Like, what's my list of things I should be doing in product marketing right now, or what should I be doing with brand? And there'll be all of these knowledge bases I can access. I think CMOs, the best CMOs, yes, they come in and maybe they have a product marketing background or a growth background. But as soon as you're a CMO, you start to experience all the other functions. Certainly at MongoDB, I'd never done comms or PR and brand and trial by fire. Like I was in there doing that. And I think the smart ones learn to hire really well. So you need to you're hiring someone who needs to hire well and can do their research or pull the information they need. So I still think you can lead, and actually maybe you need less of a background in anything. You just have to be smart enough to know what to ask, where to go, understand the business, and maybe all the way back to just being a really good learner. Right? We always talk about what do you look for when you're hiring? Continual learners and people that are smart that can connect the dots and understand. And so I think you're going to be, the 10x marketers are going to be the ones that learn quickly, try things, can hire where they need to hire, and are good at writing prompts or knowing what to ask. They're curious.
So reading between the lines, I think what I'm hearing you say is, and I would agree with this, that a CMO is more likely to have seen excellence delivered in each of those areas that they oversee. So they're going to be one of the best judges of quality. And when you say they know how to hire for the right people, I think they would also be able to assess the output of an AI to make sure that it is delivering quality at a level of excellence.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I
And that's
think
like
if you're
what
going to
defines like senior leadership, right? To be a great CEO, you don't have to have deep experience in every single thing that every single person under you does. You have to understand what excellence looks like and be able to pull that out to drive it, which is the exact same thing we have to do from our AI employees, right? And in the future, it's just going to be only more important that like senior taste-making leadership is just going to be the main value that separates people who are 100x users of AI and people that are 2x.
I also wanted to make a point that
Sorry,
when I
man.
look at marketing,
Cut you off.
I've hired a bunch of marketing guys in startups over the years, and I think of it as three things. There's creativity, there's psychology, and there's execution. The creativity is thinking outside the box, really genuinely thinking outside the box. How can I make something happen that someone else hasn't thought of before? Psychology is really getting inside the heads of my customers mainly to see the world from their perspective. And execution is just all that meat and potatoes stuff that has to get done. Like how do you make a good advertising campaign work? How do you, all that stuff. My feeling is that there's a lot of hype around the first two in AI, but there is real opportunity on the third one. That what you were saying, Chris, I think is exactly right. There's just a lot of complicated things to do in marketing today that don't require a huge amount of creativity or deep psychology, but they do need complicated execution, and that's the low-hanging fruit for AI. And I think that the companies that find the simple ways in which I can bring AI to bear and actually solve a problem I have, those are the guys who are going to get the big returns in the short term.
Yeah, good point. That's great. Is there any role that you can see yourself adding in either in your organization or your customer's organization because of AI? We talked a lot about cutting down. Someone talked about a chief agent officer, for example. That's a pretty interesting idea. Like maybe that is one type of role, is that somebody's just in charge of developing and fine tuning and even killing agents in the future. Love to get your thoughts on new roles in the future.
Yeah, I mean, to this, a similar point, we're working on a chief AI officer, which is not just working on product, but also across the whole organization. Like that it needs to roll up across. And so that cross-functionally, so it's not just in product, it's not just in marketing, not just in sales, but how are we doing this and being as most effective and efficient as possible across the org?
Like
Yeah.
an AI czar. Yeah, makes sense.
Mhm.
I also
Governance,
think just
making sure that you're building and that's something that's safe and building in the future that's actually protecting. And I think like that kind of role of like somebody who is obsessing about, like the future of the product and how that will affect humans and the kind of the governance of all of it. It's like an interesting role that you wouldn't see a couple of years ago, but I've started to see people hire now.
So a lot of teams, of course, have marketing ops, but I think there's going to be marketing development. I think that you're getting to a level of sophistication expectations where you're going to want people whose expertise is how to develop these systems that we're talking about, which is not the same skill set as how do I manage a database or a CRM. It's much more about the creativity of, and is that prompt engineering? I don't really care. It's really about, can they go make something great out of the new tooling that's available?
So for us, well, we never got around to how do you get started with agentic AI.
Yeah.
So the simplest thing for most people is going to be to go get something like LangChain or Flowise, which are tools that help you set up your own agents. There are YouTube videos that you could watch. Within 30 minutes, you'll have your first agent set up and running on your own. Very, very simple to get started. So that's FLOWISE, that's Flowise, and then LangChain, LANGCHAIN. So you can check out those tools, watch YouTube videos to get started. But for us, we're hiring. I'm interviewing later today and tomorrow people, two folks that will be effectively our internal AI, agentic AI employees. So they're going to help us set up workflows to help us streamline our own internal processes. And so that's one of their responsibilities. The other one is to teach the team how to use agents more effectively and to use these workflow tools. And then the last thing they'll be responsible for is, to your point, Kingston, creating tools that can plug into the AIs for the purposes of accomplishing tasks, especially ones that are shared between teams. So, knock on wood, we'll have that person hired in a couple of weeks. But yeah, that's who we are adding.
Anyone else for someone they're adding?
I mean,
Anyone-
if you're
anyone-
just an everyday
okay, go.
marketer and you're looking to use agentic marketing to improve your workflows, 100x what you're putting out, you have to come and try Avery out. Same thing with Amanda's Superhumans on the sales side, but I think of course, like there's amazing tool, Lindy and Respell or other tool like great workflow tools that you can start to build like Zapier like agentic workflows. But I think if like all that is still like I don't have the time, I don't have the bandwidth, all this stuff scares me. I think like using a tool like Avery that kind of like makes things more simple and straightforward for you on the strategy development and the content creation side would be a good place to get started.
Not exactly
one of the-
the answer to your question, but one thing that we're doing to like encourage people to start using more AI, like it's not official yet, but I am working with the board to come up with, if you can replace yourself, we'll forward invest your equity. Right. So, and every time you want to ask me for a head count, I'm asking you like, okay, so have you built a superhuman to figure out if you can do that before you get your head count? Tell me there's a limitation with agents or with our superhumans to get that job done. And if there isn't, if you can't do it, then we'll talk about like additional head count. But I love incentivizing people to like really think about their own work, and great. And you get it forward vested. You can stay at the company because we'll give you another job, but all that equity is forward vested. And now we'll give you new equity for your next job.
Has anyone done it?
I'm working on it. I haven't gotten.
Oh,
I'm
that's
working
awesome.
on board
I love
approval
that.
to
I love
do
the
it,
initiative.
but,
That's really cool.
I mean, it has to be fully replaced. Like they're going to take
Yeah.
on, and there are certain jobs within our company that we can absolutely do it. So I'm like, great. And I look at the scheme of things, like I'll give out more. There's always more equity go around, right? So like you can always work on that. And then I can make everyone else make a lot of money in the process. And so I'm all for like trying to find ways to, give employees incentives to be their best and help the company grow and scale and be most as efficient as possible.
Do you have a question from the chat around government and regulation? Looks like the EU nannies are trying to do something with the AI Act to regulate things. What are you guys seeing in terms of the regulation front and how that might impact your ability to innovate and just innovation in marketing, AI, agentic stuff in general?
I think like just an interesting side point on this is that marketing inherently today, before we have AIs marketing to AIs, you're marketing to humans, and humans have an amazing way of keeping things within the realm of, humans hate things that look obviously AI done. There's almost like a governance of the customer already in marketing that keeps you from kind of like going too far, like pushing things in a weird direction, I guess. And so I think unlike some other AI industries which can get really touchy, in marketing you can be a little bit more fun, and also like the customer who is like responding to the marketing tends to keep things kind of like within a realm of being somewhat governance by itself. So I think it requires a little bit less than like some of the other industries just out of the gate.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on regulation before we get it? Before we get into a speed round, one more thought on regulation. I mean, I'm sure the EU will find a way to mess things up because they always do.
Well, like a smart AI can infer a lot about you, even if you haven't said something specifically. So, there's some questions there about how do you treat the data that you've inferred, like medical conditions or where you live or what your job is. How do you protect that information, which AI will get from you over time?
Yeah, awesome. All right, quick speed round. We're almost top of the hour. What's the best new AI tool that you have that you use in your own personal workflow that you've adopted in the last 2 months? Chris, go.
Okay, best tool for us has been ClickUp. It's a tool that combines all of your tasks, chat, documents, everything into one place. To your point, Kingston, all the data is in one place. And when you have all the data in one place, AI is extremely helpful for figuring out for automation, but also for finding stuff, for making sure that you get updates pushed to you automatically to make sure that you know what's going on at the company. Phenomenal tool.
Awesome. All right, that's awesome. Zach.
Been a huge fan of a new platform called Flora on the creative engineering side. So people who are saying like trying to develop ad copy, instead of having to build something for image generation, pull it off, stick it in Photoshop, and go ahead and send it to your designer. You can build custom workflows in Flora to make some really beautiful stuff using a ton of different models. Their branding is also incredible, and I'm a brand nerd, and so been a big fan of Flora recently.
All right, let's check it out. Kingston.
Well, I might surprise you, but I've come back to ChatGPT itself and realized that I was only using 5% of its capability. Like, I think if you really start diving deep, you realize how far that tool can go.
Awesome. Megan.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Senja, Senja. It allows you to crowdsource across sources and collections of information and then display it on a website. You could go to samsara.com/upgrade. If you scroll down, you'll see all these different cool quotes coming in that have been sourced across different sources.
That's great. Did we get everybody?
Didn't get Amanda.
You didn't get me, but
Amanda, how could we miss Amanda?
I'm okay to be missed. My answer is really boring because I'm just going to say that the most exciting thing I've been doing with AI is to manage my kids' like school calendar and all of their apps of like, what the fuck do I need to do when I bring them a shoebox to school tomorrow because I can't read it all. So it just helps me give me the notifications of like, keep me on task.
That is great. And my favorite tool the last couple months has been Grok. I love it. I think it's incredibly powerful. Use it for all kinds of things. But that is the end of our panel. Julia, back to you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, all of our panelists. Such an incredible session. We're receiving a lot of messages in our Slack. Side note, we had to redistribute our just live stream. Some people are joining us on the website. Some people are joining us on Zoom. For those of you who are on Zoom, please do contribute to the Slack.